Hello, friends. We are working on the mobile app, which is the Harry Potter fan application. Let's start adding more pages to the app. And now, as we add more pages, it's going to get a little bit more involved, not necessarily complicated. So let's add a new page, which is a list of all the Harry Potter movies and their little small image next to it. So this is a little meaty, chunky page. It has got a lot of information. And we'll see how easy it is to actually build this page. So before we add the page, we have to actually do something. You have to create something called the app assets. Now, assets is where you create images, data, things that go with your app. And you might be familiar if you've done app development what assets are. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a new data asset. And the reason, so this is going to contain all the movies that we will display in the app. Now, typically, this list of movies will not come from an asset file. It will come from an API. Typically, you serve these kind of content from an API. But because in this demonstration, we want to focus mostly on the app development. So we are doing a little diversion and keeping the file local. So we drag and drop this here and open an editor window. And in this, we're going to create a little data file, which it's an array. We will call it movies. It will have a name. It will have a year. It will have a plot, which is a little description of what the movie is about. And it will have a picture. So it's an array of objects. Each object is details of the movie. So we can fill this from a list, which I'm going to do in a minute, but I want to show you how to populate the picture. That's something that's not a text. Picture is something which is a file. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a tool called the serialize image. And when we started building the project, we had created a little folder called pack, which had all these assets. So what I'll do is I'll pick up this file and I'll say load from file. And it's going to serialize this into a data URL. I'm going to simply take, copy that and paste it here. And other details, of course, I can fill from wherever I'm filling. So this is the data, and we're going to add more movies to it. Is what is going to drive the page, which is the movies page. So I'll clear all this, and I will paste the data which I have prepared in advance. So it's the same structure, name, year, plot, picture, and we have. Now, one thing is when we bind this data to our app page, we will need to declare the structure of this. So this you will see very soon how this is done. So what I'll do is I will right click and say parse to schema. What this will do is it will take the schema of this JSON file and allow me to paste it anywhere I want. Right. So here now I know what is the structure of this file. So there is a movies node, and remember this, that the flag called duplicates is checked. What this means is that this is an array. And the fact that this is an array is going to be very useful, or it will be required when we actually render this data. And everything else is the same fields that we've created in the data. So now we added this structure under response because that's the convention we follow. See, all the API responses are declared under the response node. And although we are not using an API, but when we do build an API, we will have this ready with us. So we're just using this. Now we come to the Harry Potter app, add a new page. Then to this we will add a new view, which is the root view. Okay, one thing we should do here is we should check the scroll flag here. The reason is whatever gets rendered in this view, it will probably not fit in a page, and you would want that page to scroll. So we will check the scroll box. And typically, it's up to you. We may also want to check the center flag. So if, let's say, the list of movies is really small and let's say, takes up only half the screen, if you want that to appear in the center, you should check the center flag. Or if you want it to appear on the top, just leave it. Now inside the root view, we're going to add another view. We can do it from here, or we can go to the edit. Layout is block is fine. We don't have to change that. In this, we're going to add another view. Now this view is the movie details, or the movie name and picture. This one you're going to give a column, layout column, because first there'll be a picture and below that it will be the name. So it's a column, and we can just save it. We'll come back and fill some more properties, but right now I just want to create a structure. Then inside this movie, what we're going to do is we're going to create two elements. The first one is a picture, and it is of the type image. We will add the binding and everything in a minute, but let's just create it. Then we're going to create another app element, which is the name. It's a label because it's just a display, and we do a save. Okay. So now what we've done is we've created a block. The movie block has got two elements, picture and name, and it is put under the root view. Now there are going to be multiple movies. So what we're going to do is we are now going to create binding, and let's see how that goes. So for the root view, we are going to create a data source. Here is the data source. Now for the data source, we can either give the URL of an API, or we can give the name of an asset, in which case the asset is movies. And then we have to declare here what is the structure of the data source. So when we go to the response, the data structure is present under response. So we're saying that bind it to a data source called movies, and the structure is over there. Now, which specific data element we're going to bind it to? We're going to bind it to the movies, which is the element movies. Now, when we bind it to an element, which is an array, that means it is going to render all the movies one after the other. That's something that system automatically manages for you. If it is a single element, it will just render one block. But if it is an array, it's going to render all the blocks. So we have to declare the movies only once. But the system will render it as many times as there are elements in the array. That's where this property container layout comes. So container layout basically tells you how to render each block. We can use a row or a column. In our case, we'll use a grid. And when we give a grid, we should give a desired width, which will be 50%. What this means is that each block will be 50% of the screen width, and therefore your grid will, the third element of the grid will come in the next row. That's it. Now we have declared a source. We have declared the structure of the source, and we have bound it to an element. Now we have to come to each of these elements and bind them as well. So we had an image here, and now we have to bind it to a value. What you do is, if you hit the left parenthesis key, it will show you all the fields available to bind. So in our case, we're going to bind it to the picture, which is the URL of the image. Let's give some width here as well. Let's see what happens. We can come back and change it. Okay, now we go to the second element, which is name, and we bind it to the name. That's it. So to do a quick recap, we declared a page, we declared a root view, which is the top of the view, and we bound it to a data source, which is the local source. We can use an API without changing anything, everything else will remain the same. We declared the structure of our data source, and we declared the element to which we are binding it. And within that, each block, we bound the picture and name to specific elements within the parent's element. So now you will observe that here we are creating the UI while also binding with the source. Okay, so and we can create the source. If it was an API, we could have created the API within the same project. We could have gone and fetched it from the database, populated the response, and it would have worked exactly the same way. Okay, now the next thing we need to do is we need to add another element to our navigation. And here we say that yes, movies. Let's just put it in the menu. And load page, and we say we want to use the movies page. Save. So now what we've done We have declared a source, declared the page, created a navigation, and hopefully this should be enough. There is no interactivity yet on this page, so we don't have to write any code. In the next episode, we're going to discuss how to add interactivity. So when you click on a movie, it should show you the detail of that movie. We will come to that. But so far, we don't have to provide any program, no coding whatsoever. And let's do a deploy now. We made a lot of changes, and I think it's time to do a little. Let's run our generate Flutter project. Yes, this file was extracted. Come back to our Visual Studio and run the project again. Let's see what happens. Okay. Let's see now. Look at the menu. We see a second item. Because we didn't give an icon, it used the generic icon. If you click on this, we get nothing. Yes, I was expecting this because there is an assets folder here. And Flutter expects that we declare our assets folder in the pubspec.yaml. Just trying to look for the declaration. Yeah, here it is. Okay. What this declaration means is that we are telling the Flutter app that under the folder assets, and if we put a slash in the end, it means everything under that folder is where our assets are. So let's run it again. Okay, I think it expects a little dash in front as well. Okay, there we go. So we see that the asset file was recognized, and it has created a layout which is a little not exactly what we wanted. So this is one of the things that you will be doing, is that the first shot rendering of the view is unlikely to be to your liking. So you would have to tweak some parameters to get it to render exactly how you want. So far this page has demonstrated the creating of a page which has external content and how to render it. Okay, so we will stop here in this episode. I'm going to in the next episode I'm going to come back with changes to the properties which we need to clean up this rendering, and we will build a little interactivity, which is that when you click on a page you should see the details. So I'm signing off from this episode. See you in the next episode. Thank you.